welcome to the 757 Connection. We're back with another interview. We are here with School Resource Officer over Phoebus High School, Mr. Officer Wiggins. How are you today, Mr. Wiggins?
I'm doing well.
Good to hear. So our first question, we want to talk to you a little bit about what you do in the school, as well as what your job entails.
Yes, as a school resource officer, there's several duties that we have here at the schools. One is to work with the school staff, administration, security, to put together a safety plan to make sure that the school has a plan in place in the event of any type of emergency that takes place, whether it's a natural emergency, hurricane, tornadoes, whether or not it's a man-made incident that may occur in the city and outside the building, or any kind of emergency in the building. We work on a plan to have duties that's done by each individual in the building and allows us to be able to provide a safe environment. One of the other duties we carry out here in the school is we teach what's referred to as law-related education. I teach a course in driver's education to discuss about driving under influence, discuss traffic stops, go over police encounters, and what to do when stopped by the police. Also do a presentation in the senior government classes to discuss the courts and the laws, and also go into every freshman class to discuss student responsibilities, their rights and responsibilities.
All right. So we want to talk to you a little bit about your day-to-day as well. I know you touched on it briefly, but can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, the day-to-day kind of varies depending on what's going on that day. Unfortunately, very often this job isn't the kind of job that I walk into work in the morning knowing what I'm going to do. Very often my day dictates based on what's going on in the building. Some days it's really busy and we have groups of students getting into various different things, and I'm just here to support the administration and security. I do very little in regards to enforcing here in the school. My job and my duties is I am what's referred to as officer standby. I just stand by. I support the security. I support the administration. They handle issues in the building, and when they need assistance, I will then step in to assist.
And how do you feel about what's going on in the neighborhood and community?
It's difficult for me as a parent. I have a son. I raised a nephew, and of course they're all grown. They're in their 30s. But knowing how things were when I was bringing up my son and nephew, the reaction of the children in the community and the things that they do in the community that somehow continues to feed over into the schools is very disturbing and it's concerning. Years ago, when my son was in school, and even when I was in school, when there was issues outside in the community, those issues stayed in the community. They didn't come into the school. The school was always considered a place where it was a safe haven, and you did not have to be concerned with what was going on in the neighborhood finding its way into the schools. But now, in today's society, incidents in the school, in the community, is finding its way into the school, and it's doing it at a rate that is, more than ever before. So that's my concern: is how can we stop having these incidents from the community coming into the schools? It's very concerning.
I think that's a big thing as to why we do this, because we've sensed the concern And one way to fix the concerns, talk about it, get a conversation started, and we feel as though once the conversation starts, we start looking towards solutions.
Yes, and I think that that's important to talk about it. And the other one is that having school being back to being a community in itself. What we've done is, and I'm not sure when it happened, but there was always two separate communities years ago. You had your neighborhood community where you were involved in whatever you had in the neighborhood, whether it was athletics, whether it was sports, whether it was whatever you were doing in your neighborhood. And then you had your school community, and you were involved in the activities in the school, and the students were, as I always say, busy. You kept them busy in school. That way, whatever was outside of school stayed outside of school. We no longer, in my opinion, have the community ownership of schools anymore. Schools are becoming more like the students come in for like a workplace instead of you're coming into your community to learn. And that's the one thing that if we could ever get back to that, to where the school is viewed as a community in itself, and we take care of this community, no different than a church or any other establishment where you have a community, people work together trying to keep that community thriving and doing well.
Thank you for that. One last thing, we always asked our guests on the show some advice for success. So if you could give some advice to our listeners, what would that be?
One, you're never too old to learn something new. This year will be my last year working here as a school resource officer. I retired this year. And I'm going to be starting a new venture. Not sure what I'll be starting, but I'll be starting something new at 50-something years old. So I'm going to learn something new. Once and when I came out of high school, I went into the military. From the military, I joined the police force, and I've done various different things. But the one thing that I've always tried to stay focused on was learning something new. And regardless to what it is you're learning, just learn something new. Don't be shy on trying to learn something. I try to stress to people that I work with that no one is concerned about how much you know until they know how much you care. Or they say they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. That's a phrase that I try to often give to people who are working in public service. Your degrees and all the knowledge you got isn't as important as showing people that you actually care about what you're doing. And when you try to learn as much as you can about what you're doing, and it doesn't require a whole bunch of degrees, it requires caring and compassion. And if you can show that, it makes you go a long ways.
All right. We want to thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
And as we say, you're never too young to make a change.